United States is in a state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system.
Any type of centralized power is not good for the common man. They're pushing that envelope at the judicial level, at the level of Congress, the presidential level. They're literally coming out and defying our Constitution. There are people around the world that write to me, write to you, and tell us, hey, America's the last hope. It's going to take we, the people, to get off of our butts and enact Article 5 of our Constitution and pull the power from a centralized government back to the states.
The whole point of the next president, to me, is just to fill that spot and not do any serious damage while we, the people, do our job. There's one path. One. That's it. Doesn't matter all the little nuances that go in. They're trying to do this, they're trying to do that, they're trying to do... Forget all that. It's noise. Get rid of it. Get it out of your head. There's one thing you should be focused on right now, and that's getting this convention called.
All of these reasons have created this feeling, which is real and which I think has a proper basis, of powerlessness. One remedy for that, the one specifically provided in the Constitution, is this amendment process which bypasses the Congress. I would like to see that amendment process used just once at first. I don't much care what it's used for the first time. I think just having it used once will exert an enormous influence upon both the Congress and the Supreme Court, I think. I think we'll get the parameters established of how you do it, what can be done, and I think after that the Congress and the court will behave much better.
The President of the United States not only can't save you, he's not the most powerful person, and he's not the most powerful branch in this country. And neither is Congress, and neither is the court. It's the state legislature. If
the Marxists actually thought that the runaway convention was a possibility and it was going to be all haywire, they would have done it a long time ago.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tank. Tonight's guest is the state director for COS in the state of Rhode Island. Now, he's been enrolled for about 3 years, and while helping to defend and improve our way of life during his tenure, he makes his living as an investigator in the insurance and employment industries. His hobbies include the Constitution, technology, and his favorite food is Italian, but Mexican is a close second. Getting a lot of Italian food lovers on this show, George.
Yeah, and I'm one of them, so maybe it's a law of attraction thing. Who knows?
I'm telling you. So, folks, please join me in welcoming the COS director, Tony Isabel. Tony, thank you so much for coming on our show tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's our pleasure. So let's dive right in. First question. Can you start out by telling us a little bit about what a state director does and where is your state in the resolution process, please?
My main responsibilities are to guide the other volunteers to help educate the people of Rhode Island about the U.S. Constitution, Article 5 specifically, and in doing so, the Convention of States Action Project. We're currently trying to get a sponsor, is where we are for this upcoming session.
So when you say a sponsor, you're talking about somebody in the legislature that's going to get behind this and put on a full court press for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually had a sponsor in 2020, and it was assigned to a committee hearing, and then COVID hit, and it died in committee. And then to make matters worse, the following year, our sponsor was elected Speaker of the House. And speakers traditionally don't introduce their own legislation. So we've been searching for a sponsor since then. So it'll go to a committee hearing if we can get a sponsor. The House won't stop it they've agreed to let it go forward for a public hearing. It's just a matter of getting somebody to do that, and that's difficult in this state.
Got it. Okay. So beside that, what's the biggest challenge that you face in your role, and how are you addressing that?
There are really two main challenges. The first is overcoming the objections from the legislators about a runaway convention. I'm not sure where they get their facts. They don't share that with us. They just say, we know there could be a runaway convention and we don't want anything to do with this. And that's on both sides of the aisle, actually. I wouldn't have expected it from a conservative legislator, but they're saying the same thing. So wherever they're getting the information from, I'm not entirely sure, but we can't get past that with them. And that's really the big thing. The second is recruiting more volunteers, because certainly more volunteers could put a press on the legislators and help them at least sit down and learn about the process and the myth of the runaway convention from another source. Because if they're legislators, at the very least, they should be listening to multiple sources before they make their opinion. And they certainly haven't heard from our side.
Okay. All right.
Tony, what's the current process that you guys have in place for recruiting? Like what's the, I don't know that we've asked this of really, how do we like what's the, I don't know if it's the same in every state. I imagine it's a little bit different from state to state, but there's probably some things that are the same. But from a recruitment perspective, aside from the Patriot think tank, and we're out recruiting for you guys all the time, but like, I don't know how many viewers, in Rhode Island, et cetera, to one state to another, but like from your perspective though, like what do you find to be the most effective recruitment strategies?
Well, we have our own internal tools for people who sign the petition. Our follow-up team calls them and interacts with them, thanks them for signing the petition, asks them about volunteering. Also, we try to do as many events as we can, public spaces, set up tables, booths, to try to spread the word that way. That's really the two ways we do it in this state. And this being less than conservative of a state, there are virtually no gun shows, which would be a large draw, as it is in other states. And we often get hung up with whoever the host of the event is when we're trying to get in to say, well, we don't do political. And it's a long process to explain to them that we're educational and not political.
Right.
Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. We actually have 3 events coming up, though, in the next month. So we're excited about that.
Excellent. Do you want to give a shout out to those events, maybe in case anyone's watching from the Rhode Island area?
Sure. We have Constitution Day on the 17th. It worked out that we could have it on the actual day of Constitution Day. We're going to do that at the Warwick Public Library, which will not mean anything to you, I'm sure, but hopefully somebody in Rhode Island it will. We've got a booth at Settlers Day, which is at a sportsman's club that they have activities once a year on their original founding of the sportsman's club. And we had a good turnout last year at that. A lot of people from the whole general area, even from other states, who hadn't heard of Convention of States. So that was a good opportunity. So we're looking forward to going back to that. That's on the 24th and the 25th of September in Manville, Rhode Island. And then on October 8th through the 10th, so it's 3 days, and those are difficult days, we're at the Situate Art Festival, which has been difficult to get into for the last 3 years that I've been trying, but we finally got in there. The unfortunate timing of that is it's our national summit in Orlando the same weekend. So we've got volunteers unavailable to work the booth, and because they're going to be in Florida. So that's a little tight, and we're trying to scrape that together. But those are the three events, and then we do a prayer brunch the first of the year, and we don't have a date for that yet, but that'll be sometime in January.
Is there like a website or something people could go to like get all that information?
We don't, but if they go to the Convention of States Action webpage, because of cookies, it realizes where you live, and it populates it with our local activities.
Okay. I'm just typing this out. Go ahead, Jack. You can continue. I'm just typing this out. I'm going to put it on a ticker.
Also,
Sure,
if
perfect.
I can say real quick, we also do a weekly call where we talk to people who've signed the petition but haven't followed Convention of States closely. I update them on all things, events, questions about the Constitution, whatever really that comes up, as long as it relates to the Constitution and Convention of States Action as a whole. And I do that every Tuesday night. Typically, we're only sending information out to our petition signers by text and or email. But oftentimes they tell somebody else and they come on the call. So it exposes us to a few extra people that way.
Awesome.
You know, listening to you, Tony, it's evident that you're doing a ton of work for our country, and I personally would like to thank you for that.
My pleasure.
With that said, can you tell me about a success that you've had and what you've learned from that success during your tenure?
Yeah, it actually goes back to that resolution we had in 2020. The way that came about was interesting. I had just taken over the role as state director, and if a petition signer gets contacted by their legislator through the email that we send when they sign the petition, it bounces to me as well, so that I know that the legislator is reaching out to them. And I got one of those in my first couple of months in position, and it said that there was a person locally, actually in my town, that had asked their legislator, to support Convention of States, and his response was, "Tell me more." I said, "Whoa,
Wow.
okay." So that turned into she didn't want to get involved. She signed the petition, but she didn't want to get involved. But fortunately, the only other volunteer in the state at the time happened to live in this representative's district. So I reached out to him and I said, you've got to get a meeting set up. And this went back and forth for about 6 months. And then we got a meeting. And at the meeting, he said within the first 5 minutes, he said, "I don't want to waste your time in you telling me about Convention of States. I'll sponsor your bill." He said, "I'm not a supporter yet, but I'll sponsor it. And we'll see what happens at the hearing." Now, I told you the second part of what happened, and that ended. But that was just because of a phone call that was made and an email exchange. And there were only 2 of us volunteering at the time, and it just worked out. But that was certainly a successful event because it turned into a sponsor.
Right.
And while that didn't turn out well, that is no reflection on what brought us to that point.
It's also a testament to how state legislators are accessible. That's a point we make on here all the time is that, like, I get people commenting about state legislators. Oh, you're just going to go from one political group and give power to another political group. And it's like trying to convince them that state legislators are not the same animal that federal legislators are. It's not always an easy task, but it's definitely one that I take on regularly in our comments section.
Well, we could run into them in the grocery store, the pharmacy. They have children in the same schools as these people. They know them on a first name basis. That certainly isn't going to happen at a federal level in most cases.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. Rhode Island is small, obviously, but a representative's district might represent, I don't know, it's about 14,000 people. About 7,000 of those are actually registered to vote, and about 3,500 of those actually show up to vote. And these are generalizations, of course.
Right.
So 50 or 100 votes out of 3,500 really gets the attention of a legislator.
Right.
Because I've seen races won and lost with less than 100 votes in this state.
Yep.
Which can't happen in other states, granted, but we're talking about this state.
Yeah, and a good thing to point out as well with Rhode Island, if people are looking at it and saying, "Oh, well, Rhode Island's so small," and I looked up some of the stats. It's like a little over 1 million people in population. 4 electoral votes, as opposed to like California getting 54 electoral votes. But in the end, here what's cool about it, and I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. It gets talked about. I definitely hear Mark Meckler talking about it and COS folks, but I think outside the normal circles is that Rhode Island, as far as convention of states is concerned, is just as big as California, New York, and everywhere else. Because in the end, it's one vote, and so with everybody getting that one vote, the small states have the same representation in this matter as the large ones do. No.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you know what? It's relative. We have about 4,100 petition signers in this state. Now, there are other states that would laugh at that and say, we have districts that big. Right. But it's relative to the size of the state. And when I came on as state director, and this is no reflection on me whatsoever, we had about 2,000. So we've doubled in 3 years. Now, that's not through my doing, and I don't mean to imply that at all, but there is major growth is my point. So more people are learning about it, and more people are saying the same thing repeatedly. Why don't I know about you? Well, I don't know why you don't know. I can't prove a negative, but we're here. So it comes down to advertising in one way or another, whether it be at an event or you telling your friends and relatives and things like that. The people in the state know that I have a joke that I've been asking for a billboard since I became state director, and I'm not getting my billboard unless I pay for it myself. But I keep asking because someday, for some reason they read billboards in this state.
Yeah. That's part of why we focus so much on the channel about it. So when we started focusing on this, we had from a follower perspective, maybe, 200 or so YouTube followers, maybe, 500 or 600 Facebook followers. But, a year later, we're over 6,000 Facebook followers. We're well over 1,000, and now it's starting to climb and gain momentum. And it's actually gone international at that point. About 20% of our following is international, which I found interesting. And that's across both YouTube and Facebook are that way. And it was interesting to me that because we get a lot of comments internationally where you'd be surprised how many people outside the country, understand that if there's a method, they're interested because they're hearing there's a method for the United States to fight back in this thing, because they know we're all in the same boat from the globalist perspective. And if they see the United States having some way to fight back, they are keenly aware that if the U.S. fights back and wins, that whole globalist game is over. So, there's a good amount of international folks now who are dialing in and commenting and such for that reason, because they're feeling, they're feeling the U.S. is, like we say it all the time, save the U.S., save the world, and that's,
absolutely.
I firmly believe that, without us, any globalist structure is done. So if we get our money in order with fiscal restraints, we get the dinosaurs out and all the high-end players with term limits, and we cut back the reach of the federal government, those three issues, they may not have intended initially to be globalist fighting, initiatives, but in the end, they serve that purpose because of all of the things the globalists require. The main one is an all-powerful central government in the United States, and if they
Yeah.
don't have that, they can't move forward.
They
So,
require they require our submission.
yeah, that's
Hey,
exactly.
hey, Tony.
Mhm.
I have one last question for you, please. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to share with your fellow cause members or just our audience at large?
Um, I think it's important that we teach people about the Constitution. We have a number of people out there that refer to it as that old document or that old piece of paper. And they're not teaching it in the schools. We know that. Somewhere along the line, parents stopped teaching it to their children. So we need to educate people on the Constitution.
Parents don't even know it themselves now.
Well,
Yeah.
in recent generations, you're absolutely right. They don't.
Yeah.
And the Constitution, obviously, to you two, is extremely important. It's
everything.
the fundamental principles of the country, how it was formed, what we're supposed to do. So teach the Constitution. We are fortunate as an organization that we work with Patriot Academy and we teach the Constitution in classes with Constitution Alive. I'll go out there and we have three instructors in the state that can go out and teach a class, whether it be a church group or, in somebody's home. It doesn't matter. I did one at the beginning of the year myself at a coffee shop that's owned by a conservative man. And he said, I'll give you my private dining room to use, because this is important. So teach the Constitution. I think that's the one thing we've got to impress upon everybody because it's not being done.
I agree, and we talked about this with Chris from New Jersey, where it's legislators themselves. One of the questions I asked him, and I'm kind of curious to know from you as well, is when you look. So I tried to look up the demographic in Rhode Island. Pew Research Center had a breakdown of about 30% Republican or lean Republican, 22% don't lean one way or the other, and then, which I never believe, and then the Democrats or leaning Democrat is about 48%. And I'm, when I look at the demographics, I'm thinking, I think they could be in our favor because I do believe that these topics are universal. Like, I don't think, I know Democrats personally who are for these issues and are, and are positive when they speak, about accomplishing those goals. But in the end, like what Chris was explaining and what I was asking, how many of the people in the legislature, I know you mentioned, they're all buying into the runaway convention nonsense, which is gibber. We both know it's gibber. Everyone here knows that that's nonsense. I've done multiple videos destroying that concept, but in the end, they don't know any better. And I think it comes down to, even our own legislators don't know don't know anything about the Constitution. And Chris had mentioned to me that in Jersey, at least, one of them actually, quietly acknowledged as much and said, like, a lot of these people in here know nothing about the Constitution. And it's shocking and a little disturbing to hear that. But I get that feeling. I mean, I think it was West Virginia where I did a clown video on this one woman right before it passed. There was she was just talking smack, like she called it the Articles of Convention, and meaning the Articles of Confederation, and like started to go on and count the articles. And I just had a blast with her. You should check that one out. It's actually really, I still laugh when I watch it. But like watching these people speak out loud just makes you think of Lincoln, saying sometimes better to sit back and be, assume the fool than to speak up and remove all doubt. And their lack of constitutional knowledge is the only thing that allows that runaway convention concept to exist. How many of them do you think you have in Rhode Island? Without having to insult them, you're going to need to get them on your side. But just in general, do you think it's a large portion?
To that extreme, probably not. I think that some of it is, there's no nice way to put it, a form of brainwashing. They were told by somebody that this is it, and that's what it is. And they believe it because...
Go ahead. No, please.
They trust their source. You shouldn't always trust your source.
Well, yeah, and it's a lot of it's confirmation bias nowadays as well, right? So, now you're familiar with the John Birch Society, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I would suspect that a fair amount of the conservatives up in your area, they've received information from the John Birch Society. Their focus has really been on going, approaching the conservatives all of these years and teaching about the Constitution, but then they seem to weave in that one little piece about how Article 5 was, created from the devil. And so I was just curious if you were familiar with them, because they're the major influence or negative influence as it relates to conservatives.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of them specifically, although I am aware of them. It seems to be that the problem, the root of the problem in Rhode Island has been an organization called Common Cause.
Oh, I've been reading about
petition
them.
Creators.
Yeah, that's who looks like is they have everybody in their email chain apparently. Because I've had a couple of legislators separately say to me, well, I got an email from, and they said...
May as well have gotten it from Soros himself, no?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I said, well, that's great. It's good to have a bunch of different viewpoints, but how about you listen to, and I mentioned certainly Robert Nadelson. They said, no, they have no reason to lie to me. What? Wait, huh? Right? I don't understand that. Shouldn't you want multiple perspectives?
Everybody has a reason to lie. Whether they do or not, it's another story. But everyone's got a reason to lie, and everyone's got an axe to grind. And that guy is just basically, it's kind of like being on a sales call and saying, well, I need to check with my wife first, right? Meanwhile, he makes all the decisions. And come on, it's an excuse.
I was invited to speak at a conservative caucus in state, and I was told, oh, there'll be a representative there, and I said, okay. Said, so if you two want to speak together, that's fine with me. And I said, well, we'll talk about it before it starts and see what happens. And the first words out of his mouth was, don't talk to me. I've already made up my mind. You guys could rewrite the entire Constitution. I don't want any part of it. And I said, fine, thank you. How are you today? I mean, that's how he started the conversation with me. He didn't even introduce himself.
This is, people like that, and I talk about this a lot too on the different programs we do, is I feel like everyone who now believes, who now understands and has done the reading and understands where the founders stood on this and understands the process. You don't get to that point without some point listening to this runaway convention piece. In everyone's very beginning, first you have that moment where you're if you're someone like me who was fairly well versed in the Constitution, I don't have it memorized, but I knew the articles. I understood, I understood the Bill of Rights and the amendments and such. And I just overlooked the second clause of Article 5. I just, for whatever reason. So if you're in my shoes,
most of us did.
Yeah, if you're in my shoes, then you just get embarrassed, but then you get past that, and now you're excited. but then someone tells you about runaway convention, and now you start to question it. Now you have that moment where you're like, all right, because I don't know any better, because I didn't, now I have to go down that path and listen and learn. And I listened to the Publius Huldas and the John Birch doo-doos and the rest of these people out there with their small time articles and blogs that they do, and I listened to them all and read them, and at one point was somewhat convinced, but I had not yet listened fully to the other side of the argument. And when I did, Convention of States Action was a part of the Convention of States University, was a part of what I went through, along with listening. Like, my process is kind of, I'll read something and then I go off on a million tangents, because as I'm reading, there'll be a link, to source something. And now I want to read the source. And then it's like, so now I'm reading the source, but I never finished the first article, but the source has a source. So now I go into that. But like, eventually I get back around and get everything read. But like, after going through all that and realizing, I listened to the arguments for, I listened to the arguments against, it became very evident. Like, that's the thing. It's not even like, you don't have to use your imagination to understand that the runaway theory is nonsense. That like, how impossible it is, and John Birch Society, of all organizations, like, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the one I did with Scalia, but like, John Birch Society did that video beating up COS Action for selectively clipping things from Scalia in a 79 public town hall or town forum, I think it was. I forget what they exactly called it, but in the I used a clip of it in the intro, and they accused COS of being deceptive, but in the end, in that very video, they did the very same thing they were accusing COS of, and could not demonstrate COS was doing it. So they got all tied up on oh, well, he said this, but they don't even call it a convention of states. Like, they got really tied up on the words convention of states, and meanwhile they play clips of COS members saying it's a convention for proposing amendments, and then go back and say, see, nowhere in the Constitution does it say convention of states. What it says is a convention for proposing amendments. And like, in my video, I stopped it there and was like, whoa, wait a minute. Where did I hear that before? And then I replayed the stuff they put on earlier. And like, it goes on like that through the whole video. It's just crazy. And then they selectively grabbed that clip of him saying, whoa, not a convention. Who knows what'll come of that? When he was specifically answering a question by someone who was saying people would want to overturn the Second Amendment or change the Second Amendment, and he was saying not by convention, because he wouldn't want the convention to be a part of a Second Amendment debate.
One of the problems with people in general is that they don't want to take the time to research. They want it in a 30-second clip, and that's their source, and then they're done.
Yep.
So unless
we got to create 30-second clips, Tony. That's what we got to do.
That's it.
We got to create more 30-second clips than the Soros groups and the Common Cause.
I made that comment on your YouTube page. I said, maybe you ought to try YouTube Shorts, because the attention span of people has got smaller and smaller as time has gone on, I'm afraid.
Well, the other part of it too is, fear sells, right? And so their message is one of fear, and yours is one of hope, right? And so if people will gravitate and retain that message of fear far more than anything else. And so in some ways, well, I know here and I don't know how you could convert what we do, but George and I kind of pump in an element of both. What we try and do is, raise the blood pressure of our viewers and point out the issues at hand and how they're going to impact their family and their future in this country. So we pump that level of fear, but not to the end of doing it for a publicity standpoint, but to get them incited enough to then hear our message, because that fear will far outweigh, they'll pick up on that. And that kind of opens the door and gives us that opportunity to share our message in a more meaningful way, which extends beyond that 30-second time span and, the attention span that, very few people have, or the short attention span that many people have, sometimes myself included.
Yeah,
Just
but
ask my
there
wife.
are people. There are people out there who look. You look at the Jordan Petersons. You look at the at
Rogan.
Rogan, and there's
Yeah.
others. I mean, they're not everybody's as big as Peterson and Rogan, but there are people that those guys have audiences, and they don't do short. They don't do short material. So
No, but they're
out
famous.
there. We just got to reach them,
They-
and we got to make sure that we got to make sure we're getting distributed. And I tell this to our base all the time, like when it comes, understand the way the algorithms work on these platforms. So when Convention of States Action puts out a video, or we put out a video at promoting Convention of States, there are things that the audience can do to help distribute that and work these algorithms. And one of those things is commenting, and the other is reacting. So the algorithm picks up on both of those things, and the trick, and sharing, but really it's the reacting and the commenting and doing it early, because like early in the video's release, because they almost make the decision, and I've kind of been trying to follow this so I can learn a little bit about how this stuff works. Now, there's an element of shadow banning out there too that you can never prove, but you just kind of know when your statistics get all wacky that something's going on. But like for the videos we have, I mean, we are the more theatrical videos tend to go a little bit crazier, because those videos are, they're never more than 3 minutes. They're always 3 to 3.5 minutes. There's some music in there. There's, the clips are very carefully selected to tell the story we want to tell. And what it means is that's shareable. So like when something's quick, people are much more inclined to share it than they are, then they're going to share a 2-hour debate or an hour debate
right.
On a given topic. And so like to Jack's point, like we found success in that way and growing our base significantly. And we're starting to learn this game. Like we're starting to turn this franchise around. Right. So, it's a point on Facebook where, we were kind of dropping videos at the wrong time, or not even at the wrong time, but like, they weren't produced. There's a certain way to do them where they become more shareable. And we're starting to learn the technique in that game. And it's been successful. Like just in the last, and now mind you, each one of these videos, like it may be a video totally, freaking people out about Fourth Industrial Revolution and what WEF wants to do in the globalist scheme. But make no mistake, every single one of them ends with a Convention of States message. So
I don't doubt that.
What's that?
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, every one of them. So
you got to hook them.
Yeah, and that's it, right? So in the end, they'll watch these to the end, and when they do, they're gonna see what the solution is, and that's and we engage. Some of these videos are getting thousands of comments. I'm in there personally engaging people, under the Patriot think tank, and trying to explain to them that we didn't put this video up just to show the problems. Like the idea was to make sure the problems, but really to present the solution. And so that's how we end off every one of those, because it's true, right? That's what we want. So and as a whole, even I'd love to have some of the media folks at COS Action on here as well, and just share some insights with them as well. You know what I mean? Because I think that kind of strategy in this social media game, like the left Marxists understand it phenomenally.
Oh, they could teach it.
Yeah, they've mastered it. So it's like it's on us now to kind of, all right, they're going to shadow ban us a little more, but like, whatever. Like we've still been able to grow. They haven't been able to stop us they suspended us from YouTube twice, but we just came back kept trucking along. Suspensions went away. Now the slate's clean. We got Mike Arnold on here.
Yeah.
Says educating the grassroots is the primary responsibility of all state directors.
It is.
Yeah,
That's our mission.
Yep.
Absolutely. That
Yep.
I didn't use those words, but when I said educate the people of Rhode Island about the Constitution, we're supposed to engage them in self-governance, which is our core mission. Our project is to get a convention to propose amendments, but our core mission is to recruit people and teach them about self-governance. That's really the bottom line.
Yeah. And it's not easy. Again, you learn because we do the same thing, right? On our end, we're doing the same thing. We're trying, we're engaging all these people online and trying to, like more so, I guess we took the social media warrior and are kind of taking it to an army type of deal. Like we're trying to get a militia going on here more than, and in the end, all these people we engage, and I'd said this before and I said last week, I had said this, there are people, how they say you can't win an argument on the internet and it's not worth arguing on the internet, but this is worth arguing on the internet because you do have like a lot of those people, unfortunately, some of the representatives, it takes a little longer, but like in South Carolina, those guys, from what I saw of their old debates, even from what they're saying now, they were in the same shoes that you guys in Rhode Island are in now. Like a lot of those guys turn around and said afterwards, as they were passing it, like the guys who were the heaviest proponents of it were saying, look, I had to study my way to supporting this. Like I didn't support this originally, and another guy said, I read my way into supporting this. Like they acknowledge, almost humbly, that, yeah, like I was one of those people and then I got over it. And that's, as long as the grassroots keeps poking away, you get these folks to read. That's what got those folks to turn around, and that's where your success will be as well.
Yeah, repetition is certainly the key. And if nothing else, I'm relentless. I like I said, I do that weekly call. It's actually 3 years this month, and we've done it every single Tuesday night. Sometimes there's nobody on the call, but I'm there.
We'll be on the call. Give us a call. We'll be on the call.
We'll get on there with you.
I'll make it a point to be on the call.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
So George brought up a point, and I think it's worth throwing this out there for you, or I know that Mike Arnold's listening, or any other COS members. But you might want to consider what George said and bubble it up with to the folks that are involved with social media. So what I mean is that what George said was that the algorithms pick up on commenting and likes. Now I go to the COS videos on YouTube, and sometimes I'm only one of 3 people that leave a comment, right? And click the like button. But you have millions of members out there. And I would imagine that out of that, if we can even distill it down to a couple of thousand core people around the country to say, hey, we're going to release a video and we need everybody in this core group to sign up and get so that they get a notification. And then when they get the notification, they need to just go right in, click the like button, and put, hey, I'm behind you.
Even if it's just like checking in from Oregon or,
like something like that. But if you guys could put that team together, the distribution of your videos would increase dramatically. Now, I know that's not your role, but I'm listening to you speak. I'm listening to George speak and all.
It's everybody's role.
So. What we want to do too, we're in a fortunate position where we've had the opportunity to speak with a few state directors, and we have about another dozen that are lined up. And as we gain their insights from the various states, then we're hoping that we can share back with your organization. One of the things, and I don't remember which director it was, but I'm curious to know if you have any type of an effort that's geared toward having folks attend church services, getting a hold of the pastor or the priest or what have you, and having an in-depth conversation, seeing if you could get them behind it, and then, kicking it off with them to have some kind of a conversation. Because especially in Rhode Island, where the communities are much smaller and the amount of people are much smaller, and being that it's in the Northeast, I would have to imagine that people that attend church, or you probably have a higher percentage of people that attend church as you do in some other states. And if you can, garner their support, like you said, it only takes 40 or 50 votes to swing a particular district, right? And people will pay attention to that. So I don't want to keep on droning on, but let me ask you, do you have a specific church directed mission, so to speak?
No, but it is something that as a small team, we're focusing on. We have a couple of people that are active in their churches, and they're trying to work it that way. Like I said, we had a prayer brunch last year. We're planning another one this year. We anticipated at that prayer brunch we did last year to be 35 or 40 people. That was our goal. It was the day after New Year's. Come on. And we doubled. We had 81 people show up. And they had to pay to come because it was a brunch. So they didn't just come. They paid to be there. And with that type of a turnout, we said, okay, this is an untapped market in the sense of nobody's talking politics in churches anymore because they've been told they can't somehow, which all three of us know that's not entirely true.
Right. They can talk politics. They just can't promote candidates. So, but there's no candidate being promoted.
Right, and neither can we. So we're all in the same boat.
Hey, Tony, I'd like to volunteer to do something, but I would need your help and your team's help. So if you would have your team get together a list, visit the various church websites and get the pastor's name and his email address, I could put together a video that would be geared toward the people of Rhode Island and specifically those of faith, and then send that link to that video out to them, and within the end of the video reference your contact information.
Yeah, that sounds great. Absolutely.
All right. If you could get me that information, I'll once I get it, I'll put together the video.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'll start working on that.
Yeah, I want to be able. I mean, both George and I want to be able to help. That's why we're here. Oh,
George too. Oh, well, that changes things then a little.
All right, forget it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you my reputation.
Yeah,
he's never heard that before.
I thought he was going into Rodney Dangerfield for a minute.
Yeah, no.
I get off the airplane. I asked the cab driver, "Take me to the hottest spot in town." He takes me to my house. I get no respect. I loved Rodney.
No, that's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, anything that we can do to, and really that this message goes out to cause anyone, even beyond cause action. If there's just, if there are just local people who want to fight and want to, I mean, my recommendation would be to join cause action. It would make no sense not to. But like, if there's some kind of video, I had someone reach out to me at one point asking if I can assist with some video editing and things of that nature. And, and I said, absolutely. And, but I hadn't heard back. And now, I guess once or twice they were asking me, can we use your videos? And I was like, yeah, you can use my video. Like, I'm not going to, what do you think? I'm going to sue Convention of States? Like, what are you, crazy? Like, you're the reason I'm making these things. So like in the end, like if anyone ever wants to use material that we have out there or anything like that, I don't know, to the legal division of COS, if you guys need me to waive something or whatever, I have no issue with you, utilizing
Yeah,
anything,
check with your state director. That's our disclaimer. There we go.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I
absolutely.
said check with your state director. That's our disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
you're off
clear
the
now.
hook. Now it's my problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, now it's yours.
And
Run it up the
fortunately, we have
flagpole.
fortunately
but
we have a lot of
for
autonomy at a state level, so we can get ourselves in trouble without any help. Thank you.
Yeah,
I know,
but yeah, I mean,
we're
I've
clear.
learned over time that and this is one of the reasons I didn't really take a formal position, because in the People's Republic of California, I know how difficult that job is, and I would still do it if I were not doing this. But I just felt like our impact on it would be more fruitful if we were, and it's not that the good people here aren't fighting either. We've got Michelle who reached out to us right away over here in Riverside County, and and they, I went to an event with them. It was a handwritten letter signing party and whatnot. So they're taking action here too. I just felt like from my role, since we have the channel, it would be better to kind of take it out on a national level and try and impact, some of the ways, try and impact some of the states that are right on the fringe, that are about to close.
And your help is amazing, because this is another resource, and we have to take advantage of networking.
Yeah.
I always thought you were in an undisclosed location, because if the government knew where you were out there, they'd come and get you.
Yeah, there's already a potential accident that might befall me or something. I was already in that status, so I figured, what the hell, I may as well.
Good to be special.
Now I'll just go out and announce it, so to everybody out there. All right, let's see if this video could end up being the most watched video we ever have if something happens to me. I am not depressed. I have no suicidal thoughts or tendencies. I look both ways every single time I cross the street. That regardless, I always wait at every corner just to make sure, extra sure, that no vehicles are driving by at any speeds that are dangerous to my health. So I am incredibly cautious about my person. So if something untowardly should happen to me, just know that
it's either George Soros or it's your wife.
It's the Illuminati.
It's either Soros or your wife.
Yeah,
you should start wearing a body cam.
I froze on the screen, George. I don't know if you noticed.
What's that?
I froze.
I thought you were praying for a successul, video.
I started out that way, but when I lifted my head, I noticed I was still in prayer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, some prayers are longer than others. That's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, you guys in Rhode Island, you definitely, with the mix of people there, I mean, I feel like it's just going to take a spark to really kind of get the momentum going and get, and get those people boosted up. Because when I see numbers like 30% Republican, 22% no, having no affiliation, and 48% Democrat, I'm thinking you probably got the same 30 to 40% Marxist that everybody else has. Somewhere around 30% of the Democratic Party there is likely the Marxist do-to-dos. Most of them are probably in office, because that's what they do. They stay active in that way and try to take office. But it still gives you a good number of people that can be persuaded. And it's like, if you hear that person, convincing somebody on the sly of any issue, turning somebody around, that's a person you want to. That's a person you need on your side, right? Those swayers, right? Those influencers. Those are the people you need on your side. One by one, I've been turning these people because they're turnable. The people that are in the runaway convention mindset, most of them still love the Constitution, and still, if you talk to them about almost any other issue, you find yourself in agreement. They just don't understand it, and all they've ever been presented was, the Publius Hulda do so stuff. So if you if we get, like, when I give these people, I explain to them, no, that's not why, or they'll say it says nowhere in there that this was designed to restrain the power of the federal government. And then I'll be like, really? Okay, what if I were able to show you one of our founders who was one of the most adamant about it? What if I could show you a direct quote from him explaining that very point, that's why it's in there? Would that sway you? And they were like, well, let me see it. So I'll go, what is it? I think this one was June 11th, right? The violence quote to it might be September 15th. I don't remember, but I'll send them the Mason quote saying, about how we want to, how it's done to avoid, we don't want to leave it to chance and violence, right? We want to have a proper way to amend the Constitution without leaving it to chance and violence, and a few others that will line up, from Madison's notes, from Federalist Papers. There's a few places you can grab it from, and I'll go through the trouble of collecting it all, sending it to them, explaining to them how to find it. Like, go Control F, hit this, and it'll take you right to the quote. When they read it and when they go through it, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And now I've got them, now I know I have a rational person. And before we're done, many paragraphs and internet back and forth later, we've got another one. We've got someone signing the petition and engaged in wanting to, and I don't follow up with them all throughout. There's too many of them to do that with, but once I get them from saying they're going to change the whole Constitution to turning around and heading to the website to click the sign the petition link.
It has to be one at a time. Unfortunately,
right.
There's no way. I mean, we've done a lot as an organization nationally. We're starting to advertise on national media, Newsmax, The Blaze, Epic Times. So we're getting out there, and we're seeing that that's working, because when they sign the petition, they have to put, well, they don't have to, but they're asked to put what their referral is.
Right. Which, by the way, we're not on that list, just to say. I'm just throwing it out there for, I don't know, maybe, Buck Meckler might be watching or something. Maybe just say, maybe throw us in there.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead.
We'll let them know. We'll tell them that
we're other right now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm other. Yeah. I have a weekly call, and I can't even get my name on there. That guy. Yeah, whatever.
That guy. I got a guy.
I don't even care about
Convention of States thing.
I never worry. I don't think I use my referral link at all, honestly.
We don't formally have one, but like, I've been told that you guys can see when it, like, what website it comes from, I guess. But like, our website was built, it's not built in WordPress. So we had, we did it kind of basic because we weren't sure at the time how complicated this thing was going to get. So I don't think I have the ability to, because it used to be in WordPress, you can code, you copy this code, you paste it in, and it becomes like a tracker key, right? So that, like, you can, how many times people click that button or whatever, you can know. But like, I don't think we have that ability with this basic stuff, and I keep delaying the whole migrating to WordPress thing because it's complicated.
But I don't even think it has to be that technical for you. If you create your own short link, your Bitly link, that'll track it for you.
Yeah, we have a link on our website, so that's where I send everyone to. So I send everyone to our website because the patriotthinktank.com/COS is the link I send them to. And on that link, as soon as you get to it, the first thing you see is a sign the petition link. And then there's like a PragerU video there. And and then it breaks down the different states and where they're at in the process and, that sort of thing. It's with links to the resolutions and stuff. But then, everything else, we refer them to COS. So like, and that's because after that, I don't, and we have some blog articles on there too. So I was writing some blog articles for a little while that are good. But that link, that's how, because I heard that you guys were able to see that it came from Patriot Think Tank. And I want to know, but I don't have a way to look at it. Like, you guys have a way to look at it as to where the traffic comes from, but I don't. So that's what that little tracker would do for me, is like tell me how many times someone's hitting that button and filling out,
Well,
filling it out.
that's what I'm saying. Instead of you using a regular URL, create a bit.ly or a short link and embed the Convention of States Action website in there. And every time somebody clicks on that, not only will it take them to the same place that it's taking them now, but you'll see a tracking of all of your activity through your bit.ly link.
See, there's one problem with that. I don't know what the heck that is. But I think
Easy enough.
I think the bit.ly link, though, what you're talking about, maybe I just didn't know the name of it. I think that's what we're not able to put in because it's a basic web page developer. Like it's.
Oh no, you can put that anywhere.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's code, is it not? Is it not like pasting code in?
It's not even that complicated. It's embedding a hyperlink. That's what it comes down to. So it'd be like if you had a Word document, for example, and you wanted to put a link in to your website. That's essentially all you're doing with a bit.ly link. It's easy. We can talk through it outside of here.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd be
cool.
more than happy to explain it.
I would definitely like to hear more about it because that is something that I would like to gain some insight as to, just how effective it's been so that I know if there's an event that took place, if we did something or something went down, and then I see a spike in that number. All right, that's something we want to do again, and like, or, I see no movement in that number and be like, all right, maybe that's not what maybe we need to go in a different direction, but at least give me the insight to know what's working and what's not. And that's, I mean, I know for a fact that we've driven over this last year and a half, a crap ton of people over to COS.com to sign the petition. What kills me is I don't know exactly how many. Like, has it been a massive amount or has it just been a good, solid, big number? Like I don't really know.
Well, George, if you remember last week, and this is my fault because I was supposed to document this as a reminder in an email to Mike Arnold, but he has either direct access or a source that has that access that can pull those statistics. And he made us that offer. I just haven't sent him a reminder to do that, which I was tasked
Jack.
with.
Way to go.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I'm right there.
Teamwork. Way to go.
All right, I'm going back on mute. Bye.
That's all right because we're at the hour. But I just want to say, Tony, thank you for coming on. I appreciate the insight into what's going on in Rhode Island. It's and again, Rhode Island is equally as important as anywhere because it's all one vote. And so, you guys got a small state there to rock with, but like it in one way, it's a good thing, right? It's less people that you have to sway, but at the same time, right, you got your unique challenges with the legislature that you have now, but you can take solace in knowing what happened in South Carolina. Their legislature was the same as yours when it came to Republicans being, a conservative-minded, constitution-loving people, not buying in because they're afraid, learning, right? Because the grassroots kept pounding and pounding and pounding, and eventually they started opening their ears to the other side of the argument, and eventually they came around. So we're hoping for those things to pop off in Rhode Island as well.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, I think, that we want to see change immediately. And it's a slow process sometimes. If I hadn't had the encouragement that I had my first year, I probably would have said, why am I here? Well, I did actually say that, but I might have left because nothing was happening. I couldn't even get volunteers. There were just two of us for the first 7 months.
And how many now?
I want to say we have 20.
Okay, 20.
Well, that's not volunteers.
20 volunteers. Okay.
And percentage-wise, that's a pretty big increase.
Right. No, percentage wise, that's a huge increase. So now, like, what we need is for those 20 to do the same thing that you guys did, right? And blow that number up one more
Yeah.
time and kind of like everybody be responsible for 2 people, right? And like
Well,
just bring
right.
in 2 people and
The
like let
issue
that grow.
the issue becomes in any organization, though, that you may have 20 people, X amount of people, but not all of them are active all the time.
You got
Because-
this, Tony. I have 110% faith in you that you will grow this thing like a beast. So you gotta have it on your vision board. You gotta be ready to, you gotta see it. You gotta see that pass. Look at
I'm
that
still
small
here.
arena. Right now there's 20 of you. So let's say like a Knights of Columbus maybe full of people would be the vision. Once we take the photo of that, you hang it up, put it next to, what's the major arena in Rhode Island?
Well, it's up for debate right now because Dunkin' Donuts pulled out. So it's
Dunkin'
unnamed.
Donuts. Oh, for the name of the arena? Oh.
Yeah. Dunkin' Donuts didn't renew their contract.
And what was it named before that? We don't know.
Just the Providence Civic Center.
The Providence. So we go from Knights of Columbus, we go to the Providence Civic Center. Now that's your next vision board, man. And we just keep using the Lord's universe to grow that mission. I have all the faith in the world. So, but thank you for coming on. We do appreciate you. We'll chat a little bit after, and maybe go over some of that other stuff. But again, I do appreciate it. Jack, did you have anything to close out with?
Not just a reminder on that note that I'm ready, willing, and able to put together that video for the pastors and priests in Rhode Island.
I will start working on that right away, actually.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Tony. Hey, Tony, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. We really
Thank you very much
appreciate
for
your
having
time.
me. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure, really. We're glad you're here.
Excellent. All right, on that note, folks, until next week, we're out.
And like that,